and we should be supporting those principled conservatives. Money is for most all of us, is finite. And so let's spend our limited resources where it can do the most good. We should support, withhold support not only for most national committees, all the national committees, but most state committees. Most state committees are held by the establishment. Not all of them. There's some good ones out there. But let's withhold support for every Republican organization that is in the hands of the big establishment, big government Republicans. We should also challenge all of these Republican candidates. Those Republican candidates that were promoting, in essence, amnesty for illegal aliens, they should be challenged in the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. We should be supporting our own. Too many times we're left with supporting the lesser of two evils. And remember, the lesser of two evils is still an evil. And also, this may be somewhat controversial among some conservatives, but I think at this time we should withhold support from all of the top tier, the top 4 Republican candidates. We should withhold our support from them. Thank you. They all, in my opinion, fail a very important test, the Goldwater-Reagan test. And the Goldwater test was that Goldwater became our hero. And I was there at the time as a young Republican, because he and he alone stood up and spoke truth to power and said the Republicans were wrong on this issue, they're wrong on that issue. He stood up on the floor of the United States Senate, a senator from Arizona, and said the President of the United States, the leader of his party, Dwight Eisenhower, was running a dime store New Deal. He electrified us. And we got so excited, we finally had a leader. And by the way, Ronald Reagan did the same thing. Ronald Reagan in 1973, 74, 75, spoke truth to power. He was very critical of Richard Nixon, Jerry Ford, when they expanded government. And the Reagan test is this. And again, I was there. And I was at meetings like this many times, receptions, strategy meetings. And Reagan was walking with us. He wasn't only at the head table. You might be at a reception and turn around and say, "Oh, hi, Governor. Nice to see you again." And Reagan walked with us, but not only did he walk with us, but our friends walked with him. And I never recall seeing Ronald Reagan that I didn't see my conservative friends and other conservatives there. There was always Lynn Knopfsinger and Ed Meese and Judge Clark and Paul Laxalt and Marty Anderson and Dick Allen. We were all around Reagan, so that when he moved into the White House, it was natural that the Ed Meeses and the Dick Allens and the Judge Clarks and others would go with him, and they did, Lynn Knopfsinger, etc. Identify for me, if any of you know, one conservative around any of the top 4 candidates out there. Who? I'm talking about Fred Thompson. I'm jumping ahead, and I'm assuming that Fred Thompson is going to. And Thompson has got a better voting record than some of the other big 3. But please, conservatives, be under no illusion. He is not a principled conservative. He comes from the big business wing of the party. Tell me who you walk with, I'll tell you who you are. He walks with people that we have battled as conservatives, Lamar Alexander, Howard Baker, etc. So I think for the time being, we should withhold support from all the presidential candidates. Once we support these people, we've lost all leverage over them, and they'll take us for granted, as they have so many times. He's not the top tier. I love Ron Paul. I helped him get elected to Congress the first time he ran, 1975 in Texas. And again, I think Ron Paul would not have been elected to Congress the first time or re-elected without direct mail. Direct mail was a major factor in his election back in the mid-'70s. So direct mail and the new and alternative media has changed everything for conservatives. Now, this is hard for conservatives to get their hands around, but it's important to realize, conservatives, that regardless of who is elected in 2008, conservatives are not going to govern. If we could nominate and elect the next president, conservatives are not going to be in power across this country. We're not going to have a conservative House. We're not going to have a conservative Senate. We're not going to have conservative governors and state legislators. That's going to take, in my opinion, 6 to 10 years. One of the strengths of the conservative movement for below these 45 years that I've been involved is that we have approached politics as a marathon, not as a sprint. And I'm not saying we want to forget about this election. We should make sure that the best candidate that possibly can be elected is elected. But realize that they are not going to be able to govern as a conservative, and there's a good chance they won't even be a conservative. But we have to go out there and follow the advice that Kevin Costner got in this wonderful movie, Field of Dreams. Remember what the theme was there? Build it and they will come. Well, conservatives, we have to build the conservative movement from scratch almost. And we can do it, but it's not going to happen in the next 15, 18 months. In my opinion, it's going to take at least 6 to 10 years, and we can govern America. In my lifetime, we have taken over the conservatives, the Republican Party, 3 times. Goldwater in '64, Reagan in 1980, and the Gingrich Revolution of right-of-center Republicans in 1994. This time, we want to do more than that. We want to bring the country our direction, and then we can govern America. Conservatives have made many mistakes in recent years, and I've been guilty of this next one. I read a wonderful book called A Glorious Disaster by a friend of mine, Bill Mittendorf. And Bill wrote this book about 6, 8 months ago, and I commend it to all conservatives. I finished the first page of A Glorious Disaster, which is the inside look of the draft Goldwater movement in 1964. And after the first page, I felt the Lord had taken the scales off my eyes, and I could see clearly. And what I could see clearly is that I, and most conservatives that I know, have spent too many years looking for the next Ronald Reagan. Is he behind that door? Maybe he's around that corner. You know, let's speed up our efforts to look for Ronald Reagan. All wrong. We should be looking for the next Barry Goldwater. When Barry Goldwater announced for president in January of 1964, he knew he was never going to be president of the United States. America was not going to have 3 presidents in 12 months' time. He did it for the great reason to launch the conservative movement. And you can draw a straight line between Goldwater's race for president in '64 and Ronald Reagan's election as governor 2 years later in '66. And hundreds of new organizations were formed. Hundreds of thousands of people got involved, made their first political contributions. Thousands of people ran for office. Thousands ran to be delegates to county conventions, state conventions, the national convention. It changed everything for conservatives. So if we go out there and do the work that I'm talking about and relaunch the conservative movement and run principled conservatives, and some of them will be elected, and all of a sudden in 4 or 5 years, we might be faced with having half a dozen Barry Goldwater types out there to choose from. But that's what we should be looking for now, is going back to the ground zero almost and supporting principled conservative candidates that will take us to the level where we can have another Ronald Reagan and govern America. In the few minutes that I have here, and my time is about out, I want to urge you to continue your education. One of the weaknesses of conservatives is that we don't know who we are. I consider myself second-generation conservative. First-generation conservatives, Bill Buckley, Barry Goldwater, Russell Kirk, Frank Meyer, giants out there. They certainly knew who they were. They had studied the giants, the masters. We heard John Mackey today at lunch talk about reading von Mises and Friedrich Hayek and Milton Friedman. My generation, second generation, we did the same. Unfortunately, the third and fourth generation, present-day conservatives, are not grounded. They listen to talk radio. That's wonderful. I'm glad it's there. And some of the pop conservative writers out there, that's nice. But that doesn't tell you who you are. You're not grounded. And in my book, Conservatives Betrayed, in the back of it, I've got about 30 books there written by giants that you need to be familiar with. You need to read these books.